be talking about the proof of concepts, a very important part of any system, any kind of open source project, any kind of project all together at all. So let's go through that real quick. So this session will provide an overview of the framework, the POC framework, how to create a POC that's endorsed by the community and OSM as well. And on top of that, it will provide the list of POCs that have been registered so far. Okay. So one of the things is why do we do POCs, right? One of the things is listed already up there, right? It encourages further development of OSM, right? What are the other things that help with the POC? Why do we want to do them? There's a factor that it influences what the future releases will contain, right? Identifies problems and obstacles that may be there as we're going through the POCs, right? And also shows the OSM community that, hey, where is the community going toward? What are they trying to drive toward? As you know, as Vanessa and everybody mentioned, this OSM has a lot of universities. They're looking futuristic approaches, and that kinds of helps OSM drive toward the next features that we want to work on. Okay, so OSM, it's lightweight, right? The framework that we have. There's few things that are required to be a POC on OSM. At least one of the members should be a member of OSM or a participant in there. It should use a core OSM as a component, and then it should be presented to the OSM community before starting to work on it. Okay. So this slide is just to state that you can't just create a POC and start working on it. There's a process that needs to be followed in order to create the POC. All right, the team that's trying to do the POC will send a email to the tech list, informing the community that we want to do a POC. And once it's acknowledged, and then by the OSM TSC, and then it gets publicated, and then eventually, and also with Marcom, we'll let them know as well that there's POC coming, so they can publicize it. And then as time goes on, as the POC progresses, we have a weekly tech meeting that the POC team can attend to give status update and showcase what has happened, and we learn from there and integrate that changes that they're suggesting. So this is the list of the POCs, and it consists of the things that Vanessa and Francisco Javier talked about network slicing and the 5G stuff, orchestration stuff. So, and we'll make the slides available so you can go to each of the links, and they're all in the public wiki, so you can see them, and all the details are there. We'll briefly go over them right now. And there are some demos that we can go through as well, depending on time. But we'll see how much time we have and go through those. But those are the 7 POCs that we have currently. All right, so let's go to the first one. This is the DevOps and service chain and 5G network slicing. The other thing that I forgot to mention is the POCs that we say joint POCs are welcome, and all the POCs that we have right now are pretty much joint, and it makes it easier to do because a lot of people, different companies have different knowledges. They can help out with getting everything working instead of one company trying to do everything themselves, right? So this POC, the objective was to create a solution that embodies management, orchestration, testing of a 5G slice in a virtualization environment, basically testing and monitoring service end to end. Right. So some of the drivers for this POCs, this POC was the design time, which includes end-to-end validation required when building a new service chain. Right. The runtime was another driver for this. The chain, in this case, the chain must be activation tested as a part of a fulfillment process prior to the customer being onboarded. Right. The chain also must be constantly monitored that it provides functionality according to the SLA prior to the customer detecting issues, right? As you know, in any kind of environment, there's frequent changes will occur in the service chain during the lifetime. So there's no time to manually test and validate the changes, validate that the new changes will not break anything, right? So testing has to be programmable and automatable. So some of the takeaways, and we'll go to the demo real quick, but some of the takeaways is, what we're learning is from this POC was active, service testing and monitoring of individual slices. It's not just needed during the 5G networking slice deployment, but it's through the whole life cycle of the slice, right? Virtual test agents should be included in the network service design, and the DevOps approaches need to be introduced to enable automated service acceptance. Okay. Would you mind pressing the video there? We'll go through this. This is a little bit 10 to 12 minute video, but we'll go through that and then go to the next ones. We did see it working before.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. And as Patrick said, my name is Kayla Loeffler. I'm the Director of Marketing at NetRounds. I also have a side gig as a member of the Open Source Mano marketing team. And I'm excited to be here in Sofia Antipolis for the first time. For those of you who don't know, as Patrick said, we do active test and measurement. We're based in Sweden as well. We assist operators to actively verify that provisioned services are working when they're delivered and then throughout their lifetime as well. I'm presenting today on continuous next generation evolution for virtualized infrastructure. And what that means is I will be sharing with you one of our POCs that we think is assisting with this next generation evolution. We've been working on a POC called DevOps and Service Chains and 5G Network Slices together with our partners Telenor, Intel, Rift.io, and Arctos Labs, and we've been using open source Mano technology. And why are we up here as NetRounds? We've been involved with the ETSI NFE group for a number of years now. We participated in ETSI POC number 36, NFE POC number 36, which is called Orchestrated Assurance. And now we're kind of building on that with our participation in open source Mano, which we joined last fall, and then shortly after that began working on this POC with our partners. Ensuring great customer experience is a top priority for service providers, as we all know, but networks are becoming more complex. We've talked about that complexity a lot today. And with these more frequent changes, more updates, and the virtualization and shared resources, how do you ensure that your customer is receiving the service quality that they are demanding? And in an end-to-end fashion, not just using infrastructure counters. We like to use this little robot here to illustrate that using passive infrastructure counters and statistics cannot accurately map to how your end user is experiencing their service in a good way. And it's become even more difficult with all this added complexity. So as you can see, the QoS and QoE there is kind of falling off the end of the conveyor belt. We call him lovingly the great mapping machine, but he just will not be sufficient anymore. So what if you could validate that SLAs are being met at the time of service delivery before you hand it over to your customer and potentially have them experience adverse network quality? What if you could discover issues earlier? What if you could be notified if your services aren't meeting the SLAs that you've promised your customers? And what if you could do this quicker? Collecting counters from your infrastructure will not solve the above. But with this POC, this is what we work to solve, and we can solve this using active testing. So the key takeaways from the POC, which I'll start with here, are to test and monitor the delivered service and not just the infrastructure.